How did 1950s British women keep their hair looking so perfect? There was no heat protector, no hair serum, no Brazilian blow dry, no keratin treatment. In most homes, hot water didn't even run properly. But look at photos from that time. That volume, that shine, that shape. It looks better than today's most expensive salon treatments. So what was the secret? A weekly shampoo and set, a hairnet, natural drying, a cold water rinse, 100 brush strokes. Every one of these habits is today either completely forgotten or dismissed as old-fashioned. But behind every single one is real logic that hair scientists actually back today. And as each of these habits disappeared, what replaced it wasn't a better hair routine, it was a more expensive one. And the number one habit at the end of this video will surprise you the most because it's coming back today as a new trend. But in 1955 in Manchester, every woman was already doing it. While putting this video together, I realized I'd asked these same questions myself. While researching, I thought, why did my grandmother never talk about hair problems? Why does that generation's hair always look so perfect in photos? And the more I found the answer, the more it surprised me because the answer wasn't complicated. In fact, it was so simple, I asked myself why nobody reminds us of it anymore. You don't have to do this research yourself, I've done it for you. 10 habits. Behind every single one, real logic that scientists back today, and every one of them was, in 1955, a natural part of every woman's weekly routine in Manchester, in Leeds, in Kensington. I'll take you into Margaret's hair system. Subscribe and let's go. A secret 10. Washing hair once a week. In 1955, Margaret washed her hair once a week. That sounds like too little to us today, but actually this habit was far closer to what we now understand about healthy hair. The scalp naturally produces sebum, an oil that protects hair, balances its moisture, and forms a natural barrier around every strand. Washing hair every day keeps stripping this oil away. The scalp is then forced to produce even more oil. The result, hair that's prone to greasiness, thin and prone to breaking. Margaret washed once a week. Her scalp got the chance to balance its own sebum. Each strand's natural oil stayed intact. What's taught today under the name scalp sebum regulation, letting the scalp balance its own oil, was in 1955 simply a practical necessity. Hot water was scarce, hair couldn't be washed every day, and that limitation actually created the best possible condition for hair. Secret 9. Rinsing with cold water. After washing, Margaret rinsed her hair with cold water. This sounds odd to us today, but there's very simple physics behind it. Look at a hair strand under a microscope and you'll see its surface is covered in overlapping scales called the cuticle. Hot water opens these cuticle scales, cold water closes them. Open cuticles leave hair rough, dull, and prone to breaking. Closed cuticles leave hair shiny, smooth, and strong. Margaret washed her hair with hot water, then rinsed with cold. The cuticles closed, the hair shone. What hair experts recommend today under the name cold water rinse was, in 1955, simply the last bit of water in the bucket having gone cold. Once again, limitation gave the right result. Secret 8. Natural drying. Margaret never blow dried her hair because there was no hairdryer. Electric hairdryers didn't become common in England until the late 1960s. In 1955, hair was left to dry naturally, and this was actually the best option for healthy hair. Heat directly affects the protein structure of a hair strand, keratin. Regular exposure to heat makes hair brittle, breaks off the ends, and dulls its shine. Margaret's hair was never exposed to heat. It dried naturally, its protein structure stayed intact. Today, heat damage is one of the biggest problems in hair care. To fight it, people buy heat protector sprays, special shampoos, and repair masks. The problem began in the 1970s alongside the hairdryer, and along with the problem came the products meant to fix it. Secret 7. 100 brush strokes. Every night before bed, Margaret brushed her hair 100 times. This sounds like a myth today, but the logic behind it was very sound. The sebum on the scalp, that natural protective oil, is only produced at the root. Brushing spreads this oil from root to tip. Every strand gets coated in its natural oil. Moisture balances out, shine increases. On top of that, brushing stimulates circulation in the scalp. Blood flow increases, hair follicles get more oxygen and nutrients. A natural bristle brush, not synthetic but animal hair, gave the best result, because natural bristles pick up oil and spread it, while synthetic bristles don't. Margaret's mother learned this from her mother. and her mother's mother from her own mother. Today, devices sold as scalp stimulation brushes and courses on scalp massage are rediscovering the same habit. For Margaret, it was just 10 minutes of her evening routine. Secret 6, the weekly shampoo and set. In 1955, the weekly hair day was Friday evening or Saturday morning. Hair was washed. A setting lotion, brands like Amami, was applied, curlers were placed in one by one, a hairnet went over the top. Hair either dried under a salon dryer or was left to dry naturally. On Saturday morning, the curlers came out, hair was combed and styled, the look for the week was ready, and that look stayed exactly as it was all week long. The key difference from today is this. The decision about hair was made once a week, not every single morning. Margaret didn't get up on Monday morning and spend 15 minutes on her hair. That decision had already been made on Friday evening. For the rest of the week, she simply kept to it. Today, the average woman spends 150 minutes a week on her hair. Washing, blow drying, styling, the same process every morning, the same decision every morning. In 1955, that time added up to just 30 minutes a week, and the result was better. If you know someone who styles their hair every single morning without fail, always wondering which product to try next, send them this video. Secret 5, sleeping with a hairnet and curlers. At night, Margaret slept in a hairnet. The weekly set was protected. Hair wasn't damaged by friction. The shape held all week long. This sounds strange to us today, but the logic behind it is very solid. While you sleep, hair is in constant contact with the pillow. This friction, especially against cotton pillowcases, opens up the hair's cuticle. Open cuticles lead to breakage, tangling, and dullness. Margaret's hairnet prevented this friction, and at the same time it kept the set in shape. Today, the silk pillowcase is one of the most popular trends in hair care, sold for £50 to £100. The logic is exactly the same. Reduce friction, protect the cuticle. Margaret's hairnet cost a few pennies. The core principle never changed, only the packaging did. Secret 4. The vinegar rinse. In 1955, Margaret rinsed her hair with vinegar, apple cider vinegar, or white vinegar. A few tablespoons in a bowl of water. Added to the final rinse, worked through the hair, then washed out with clean water. Behind this habit lies the pH balance of hair. Healthy hair sits best at a slightly acidic pH between 4.5 and 5.5. Most shampoos are alkaline and they raise the pH of hair. This opens the cuticle scales, leaving hair looking puffy and dull. Vinegar, being acidic, balances that pH back out. The cuticles close. Hair lies flatter, shines more, and breaks less. Products sold today as peach balancing shampoo and apple cider vinegar hair rinse are rediscovering the same habit. £30 a bottle. One bottle of apple cider vinegar lasted Margaret several months, and it cost just a few pennies. Secret 3, herbal hair rinses. After washing her hair, Margaret sometimes applied a herbal rinse. Rosemary was the most common. Rosemary steeped in boiling water, then cooled and used as a hair rinse. Back then, this habit was passed down as a grandmother's recipe, generation to generation. Nobody called it a hair growth serum. It was simply rosemary water. A study published in 2023 compared the effect of rosemary oil on hair growth with minoxidil, the most widely used hair growth medication on the market. The result, after 6 months, both groups showed similar hair growth. Margaret wasn't doing this because she'd read a study her mother had done it this way and her mother's mother before her, but that mother's recipe was really a pattern refined over centuries of trial and error, keeping only what worked. Today, rosemary hair serums are marketed as the new super ingredient in hair care, £50 to £80 for a small bottle. Margaret's rosemary plant grew right there in the garden wall, free and fresh. Secret 2, the beer rinse. This was the habit that surprised me most while researching. In 1955, Margaret sometimes rinsed her hair with beer. Flat beer, with the fizz gone, applied as a final rinse, then washed out with clean water. This sounds odd to us today, but there's genuinely sound chemistry behind it. Beer contains 2 important ingredients, protein and malt sugar. The protein temporarily strengthens and thickens each hair strand. The malt sugar clings to the hair's surface, creating volume. Beer's slightly acidic nature also closes the cuticle in much the same way a vinegar rinse does. The result, hair that looks fuller, shinier, and stronger. Today, dozens of products are sold as volumizing spray, protein treatment, and hair plumping serum. Each one costs between £30 and £80. Margaret's beer rinse was worth a few pennies. And it was most likely the half a beer her husband hadn't finished. Secret 1, not washing too often and trusting the scalp. And this is the most important one. Margaret trusted her hair. That sounds abstract to us today, but in real terms it meant this. She let her scalp regulate itself. The less often hair is washed, the more the scalp balances its own sebum production. A scalp washed 7 times a week keeps producing oil constantly because it keeps losing oil constantly. A scalp washed once a week balances its production because the oil stays where it's needed. This adjustment period takes a few weeks. During that time, hair can look greasier than usual, and this is exactly why most people today can't get through that transition. They last a few days, then go back to washing every day. Margaret never went through this transition at all, because she never did it any other way. Her scalp stayed balanced, sebum production wasn't out of control, hair was protected by its own natural oil, and that protection gave something no product ever could: health that came from within the hair itself. Today, scalp health is the biggest trend in hair care. Microbiome shampoos, scalp serums, follicle stimulating devices. Margaret's scalp never needed a single one of these. It simply wasn't interfered with, and the hair in those photographs was the result. Take another look at these habits. A cold water rinse, 100 brush strokes, a hairnet, a vinegar rinse, rosemary water, beer, and washing once a week. Not one of them needs an expensive product. Not one of them needs special equipment. Behind every single one is simple logic that hair science backs today. Margaret didn't follow these habits as a deliberate hair care strategy. Her mother had taught her everyone did it this way. And then one day these habits slowly faded out. Hair dryers arrived. Washing every day became the norm. Product after product followed, and even more products to repair the heat damage those first products caused. Maybe the problem was never that our hair wasn't good enough. Maybe the problem was letting go of the system, and bringing it back doesn't need the products of an $80 billion industry, just a few habits and trusting your hair. Pick just one from this list this week, just one. Try it for a week, then come back and tell me in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Tap the bell icon so I can find you when the next video is ready.